Hello and welcome to the Conversations with Corrections podcast. I'm Richard Piatt, along with Executive Director Jared Garcia, and we're pleased to have with us our special guest, Senator Derrin Owens from Utah's District 27,
Thank you.
Senate District 27. Yep. Just for your information, Senate District 27 cuts down the middle of the state of Utah in the southern part from basically the tip of Utah County all the way down to Washington County. So you get to experience the best of all the worlds between Utah County and all the way down there.
Yeah, I do.
It's key for us here at Corrections to maintain a good relationship with Senator Owens, and we're happy to have that right now because he serves on the Criminal Justice Appropriations Subcommittee and the Senate Law Enforcement and Criminal Justice Confirmation Committee. All are very important to us, and we're lucky to have him as an ally. Thank you for joining us, Senator.
Thank you. You bet.
Now, I understand that you're from Show Low, Arizona, and that is a little tiny community that's kind of tucked among Indian reservations and some national parks. How did you get from over there up here to Utah and your interest in law enforcement along the way?
I don't know how you knew about that, but yes, I grew up in Show Low. It's an interesting story, a little western town that was started by a poker match. So in the turn of a card, and the dealer turned over the deuce of clubs, and these two ranchers who hated each other over 100,000 acres decided instead of having a gun match, they would have a poker match, and at the end, after playing all night, one of them needed 1 point. He told the dealer to show low, and he turned the deuce of clubs. He won both ranches. The other rancher had to leave, and 100,000 acres of ranch, and the town began.
It sounds like a long journey between there. How did you evolve from there, and then?
Yes.
Your interest in law enforcement and corrections, how did that evolve?
Well, my interest was, I guess, always just wanting to serve people, and that's what I see law enforcement, corrections as, just taking care of our fellow men. I migrated from Arizona up to play football at Snow College back in the late 80s, and met my wife there a year later, and we raised our family in Sanpete County ever since. And as an educator, I was a school teacher and coach, and I never had any intent of getting into politics, but later in life I was approached and asked to consider it. And now here it is 11 years later, and I've been honored to work closely with Director Garcia and his predecessors, watch the good that they can do, the lives that they can touch, and their stakeholders. It's so vast that it's just been something I've just loved to be a part of.
That's really cool. Interesting. Thanks for sharing a little bit of your personal story. I hope you don't mind me springing that on you.
Not at all. I actually have one son who is in law enforcement, two that serve in the military. So all of that together, life's.
Well, you mentioned your strong interest in how the department handles especially reentry and rehabilitation, and making sure that happens and interfaces with the community safely. And you're also a champion for the correctional staff and the people that work hard to make our systems run, as well as for the people who are incarcerated here. What are the shared priorities that you see between the work that you're doing and the initiatives that the Department of Corrections have been doing in the recent past?
I love that question. It doesn't have to be an either or. And I've heard the shaming comments of, if you're an advocate for those who are incarcerated, you're a hug-a-thug, or and shame for that, or corrections on the other side. It doesn't have to be. I see the corrections really doing the job of what corrections is to do. Director Garcia drives a massive ship. It's like a whole city. I think you have 8,000 incarcerated, or you're over in the whole system. And how many employees?
Roughly 2,500.
So 10,000. Mm-hmm. So it's the city of Nephi, Utah, and change is hard, and there's a lot of stakeholders. I got involved when that really was assigned to over executive offices and criminal justice in a rough time. I think we had 7 assaults on officers as we just moved to the new prison. We thought, how could this be? We tried to create this facility that everybody would, be less stressed, and watched our new director, Brian Red. Director Garcia was his deputy, I guess, to speak of, and came in and just, I thought, really made some great changes for all stakeholders. And that was easy to get behind and start advocating for financial support. We were down 300 and 400 officers. Everyone was on mandatory overtime. Those were tough times, and I actually never thought we would get to a place where we weren't on mandatory overtime, but it happened, and they took the initiative. The legislature stepped up with some support, and I think the correction system's in a much better place today, but we have a lot of work to do still.
So a lot of the initiatives that that we're creating here, of course, require money. Do you find that some of the things that we do, even with the laudable goals that we have in mind, are a little bit of a tough sell, or is it an easy sell at the Capitol in the age of tightening budgets and the Doge mentality that's been going on? How does that, as part of your job, turn out?
Definitely part of the job to try to find that support. And the function or the getting the wins really comes back to the operations of corrections and how they're doing their job. Something I have loved to see is that instead of a hard stance, listening to the inmates. And I've watched new programs come about that aren't super intensive financially. I don't think we have thousands of volunteers. Utah's the highest volunteer state in the union, and so it's not surprising that many want to come to the Gunnison and Salt Lake prisons and volunteer. But there's frustration around that as well, because when you're trying to doge your system and eliminate any paraphernalia or drugs that come in, it all comes under the title of security, and that's less access for public to the ones who want to do it right and volunteer. They can't come and be part of those who are incarcerated of their lives and their reentry and their correction, correcting their lives. So I find that it's just walking a tightrope sometimes and trying to balance that, get the support corrections need. But we have to see results, and being able to get everyone off of mandatory overtime. We changed some laws and moved you can enter at 19 years old and a great career. I don't know many people know that. You can have a great career in corrections. But on the other side, I hope that if you come to have a great career in corrections, that you're a type of person that want to make a difference for good. You have that opportunity in front of you every day. And I know that in 8,000 employees or 2,500 employees, that's not the case every day, and some of them, I don't think they have the best interest of incarcerated at mind. For the most part, I think they do, and that's the work of the director. He gets to try to manage that and inspire people to try to go help change lives for the better.
That's right. Well, Director Garcia, one of the exciting programs that we were talking about earlier before we started recording was the IRIS. The IRIS Center, and its work to kind of utilize technology or to kind of move us forward. Could you describe what IRIS stands for and what it does?
Yeah, so the IRIS Center, IRIS stands for Intelligence, Reentry, Intervention, and Safety. And really, that is self-explanatory when you think of those four terms. First of all, we want to keep all of our employees safe. We want them to know they can come to work and do their job in a safe way. As the center alluded to, we want them to know that the work that they do is meaningful, it's impactful, they are making a difference to keep each other safe, to keep the inmates safe, and really at the end of the day to prepare them to reenter our communities. We know 96% of the folks that are in prison are going to be our neighbors at some point, and it's critical that we prepare them to be our neighbors in a successful way and hopefully ensure that they don't return back to criminal activity, that they don't victimize people, and really that they can be have meaningful lives from here on out. So the safety piece is really critical to this. I think one of the big things that I'm most excited about the Iris Center, though, is our ability to leverage technology to assess people and then manage their cases. And I think that that is a challenge not only in corrections, but in the criminal justice system as a whole. So I'm hoping that here at the Department of Corrections, we talked about those who were incarcerated and our employees. We also have total, including the incarcerated, we have about 20,000 people under our purview because of those who are on probation and parole. And so when you think about that probationary population, it's a huge group of people that we're responsible for. And I truly believe that we can make a large impact by properly assessing them and managing their cases so they don't come to prison at all. That's really the goal. So when we talk about the work we're doing with Senator Owens and his counterparts, the community, our employees, the inmates, my message to the department right now has been move the middle. So, we talk a lot about high utilizers in the community, the people that we spend a lot of our time with, and we have to continue to focus on them, whether it's in facilities or in the community. Right. But we have a huge opportunity to move the middle by creating safe spaces for people to change their lives, safe places for our employees to show that they can have an impact. And then at the end of the day, we have to show those results.
So do you both recall working with each other on the Hill to get that program instituted and funded and everything?
For me, certainly Senator Owens has been a huge champion of corrections since I've arrived here. I've got to see his work from afar while working for the Utah Department of Public Safety throughout my career, and then as the chief of police in Moab. But we are so fortunate to have Senator Owens and others that are corrections champions, and who, like he said, they care about public safety. We need people like that understand how complex it is, how challenging it is, but also how important it is. We have to elevate how the public perceives our correctional officers and our AP&P agents. Right. And I think we're doing a really great job of it, but we can't do it without partners like Senator Owens.
And the interesting thing is that IRIS is just one thing that we're working on. We've got a number of other things that are kind of in the works too, that are coming up. So it's like an ongoing effort to keep that going. Senator, can you remember some success stories from corrections that you think are worth sharing with our audience, and
Rick,
things that you share at the Capitol?
I've come out of prison before a few times and called my wife and left a better person for having visited and listened to some of the life stories of inmates who have decided, and really you can't force it. The opportunity to change, and then the programming, which is complicated between jail contracting and those that you have stewardship over there throughout the 20 county jails across the state, and within your 2 prison sites, and then the in-between. I've watched some really strong, successful programs that we've been able to be honored to be a part of, and a couple of them, one was in Gunnison, and it was at the time was called Prevail, and this was an inmate-sponsored program. They came up with, look, if we can kind of police ourselves, we'll help with the behavior and we'll hold each other accountable, but this will be a safe space. And I don't think it ever before in corrections had been allowed to operate under a program like this. Then something similar was at Salt Lake City and facility, and that's the SOLID program, which is going on now. When you mentioned funding, that was mostly done by volunteers. We got some appropriation for it a few years ago, but it was minimal. And this is a program that helps. You talk about reentry. These volunteers are going into people's homes and helping the families prepare to what to expect when their loved ones come home, and what is their journey and how they're trying to be the best version of themselves. It doesn't apply to everybody because everybody's not on the same page. Some want nothing to do with self-help and getting better, but those who are ready, I love seeing these programs that corrections has allowed to take place, and for relatively little funds on that side, that I think we need to continue looking for those opportunities.
Do you think the public opinion is shifting? Do both of you get the feeling that people are sort of seeing what you're seeing, that these are opportunities to to get people to, to better their lives, to do something a little bit differently, do things that works rather than just locking people up and throwing away the key kind of mentality, which was very strong in the past, I know.
Do you want to go with that one, or I'll follow
Start
up?
off.
Yeah, I hope that it's changing.
Yeah.
I've spent 20 plus years in outside law enforcement, and as I've learned more about corrections over the past couple years, I just feel like we're a little bit behind the curve on some of the lessons we learned at the Department of Public Safety and as a police chief. But we've really focused on what you're now in charge of. Welcome to the Department of Corrections, by the way, and educating the public on the great work that's being done by our officers, by our agents, by our professional staff, and also educating the public that not everybody in prison is a terrible human being. Most people in prison made an awful mistake or an awful choice, but they're paying the price for the mistakes that they've made. And when they return to society, they deserve a second chance. So I think overall we're changing the perspective of corrections. We have a long road ahead of us. That's why I do participate in national groups and interact with my peers throughout the country, more so than I probably did in law enforcement, because I think it's so critical that the state of Utah lead the way in that effort. And I think we're the right team to do that. Team UDC is amazing, full of amazing people. We have great momentum, and we're going to teach this country how to do corrections the right way.
Mm-hmm. Senator?
Yeah, I love that, and I see that happening. And this man sits at the driver's seat, where if that's not the intent of any of your employees, I would ask them to depart and find another career, because you expect your officers to function at high level, but I think it can be high law and high love, and you need those. You can't just be high law and low love. We don't care about you as a person, and you are a number. Throw away the key, and that's how you refer to yourself. No, you are a person who made a mistake, and going to prison, it's time out of society. That is the sentence. The sentence isn't to go into prison and be treated like dirt. It's to go reassess, have opportunities we hope to correct. That's the name of the system. And I see that. Like the director said, there's lots of work to do, and it's a challenge. Every case is challenging, and when you have so many. But I see the needle turning, and I hope, with you, I hope that the public is seeing that. There are people in society that should be locked up, and there's people that are locked up that are ready and would be great members of society now. I don't know how you get through all of that, but one thing, we were talking about AI a little bit. Director was telling me some of the initiatives you guys are doing just before we started, but I would love to have AI go back and assess and find those inmates who don't recidivate and they don't come back, follow their path and see what officers had impact on their lives. Like for me, it was my coaches in high school that helped turn me into just a knucklehead teenager to someone who wanted to be their best. And if we could find that, I wish we could set up a system that if you were part of helping inmates correct and never come back, I wish we could pay you another stipend of $1,000 for every inmate, and you might have $100,000 a year in stipend. I don't know how that looks. It's just come out of my head, but just think of that. That's the impact that the corrections officers get to have every day, and a high number are the best, and some, I know Director Garcia's job's not easy, and he's made some tough decisions. I can also say that as you asked about being on the Hill and his work, formerly with Director Red, lots of great things took place. Some hiccups and missteps. No, that's going to happen. But while Director Red was on the Hill, this man was instituting all the great changes on the boots on the ground, and that's why he's the leader now, and I hope that the leadership and everyone in the correction community will get behind him, and that our whole society can see that this is a system that we can lead out on. And I'm going to encourage you to open those doors and let the volunteers come in, let the church members and a whole society. I know it brings some risk with paraphernalia. Well, figure out a way to make sure that doesn't happen. But keeping people away from their loved ones it hurts those who are trying to do it right.
It seems like that kind of mentality makes things even worse, because if you have people that are antagonized and inside, then they're doing things in there that can potentially extend their sentence or create an even worse situation for them, and it could be just a flash in the pan kind of reaction to something.
I think what Senator Owens was talking about really resonates with me, and it's really where we're headed as a department as we enter the new year. Our staff's going to hear a lot about this. We've started to educate the advocacy groups, but we are going to be moving to a more tiered privilege type housing style, a more that style that's conducted to better fidelity is really what I'm talking about. Meaning, in kind of my type of terms, Reader's Digest terms, is we're gonna separate the bullies and the predators from the middle. That's why the slogan is to move the middle, because and the way we do that is by leveraging information and intelligence like we did in the outside community in community-based law enforcement. So because we know that those who are truly the predators, the puppet masters, are in their cells, or sometimes they're in the community and they're benefiting from this, they're profiting from it. And it's really hard to find those individuals, because if somebody that's incarcerated comes and tells us, that puts them and their safety at risk. And so we have to be really great at kind of that see something, say something model that's implemented in the community. We have to be great at leveraging technology to identify the key things that are occurring in our facilities that prevent people from being successful. And I like what you were talking about, law, high law, because while I talk a lot about reentry and rehabilitation, that is critical. That's what we're trying to accomplish, is reducing recidivism and helping people to be successful. There has to be a high level of accountability still. We have to be thorough, complete, professional, and we have to be excellent at investigating things and documenting things. So the good, the bad, and the ugly. When people are performing well, they don't have disciplinaries, they don't have positive UAs, they're not harming people. We need to do an excellent job of documenting that, so the Board of Pardons and the courts can make excellent decisions and let people out of prison when it's appropriate.
Oh, I love it.
Do you feel, Senator, that part of what you're doing on the Hill sometimes is working defense? In other words, I know that the legislature is a reflection of society, and society is fed up with crime and with some of the things that we're seeing, and there's a temptation for some legislators to respond with a bill that'll crack down, and they have like enhanced penalties, and they want to tie a lot of mandatory minimums to a lot of sentences. It felt like for a while we were moving away from that, and now it seems like the pendulum has kind of swung back. Do you find yourself kind of advocating that way to maybe encourage your colleagues to maybe tap the brakes on that, or kind of rethink what the penalty phase of any kind of crackdown should be, or maybe utilize some of these creative methods that we've been talking about?
Great question, 100%. And I know the governor's felt that too. The reality is, for every crime, there's also victims, and that they deserve to be heard as well. But just this last session, the 2025 session, I don't think there's been a session like that in many years, where more enhanced penalties, I think over 80 bills on enhanced, we can do it, but I don't think just higher law is going to do anything if we don't use higher love and have opportunities for people to correct. So it is a balancing act to try to find that, because I know colleagues of mine on the Hill who have been victims of crime, and so it's very personal and real. I could see where you would easily take the stance, throw away the key, but that's not the Creator's way.
Right. Well, exactly. I'm wondering, Director Garcia, if you've experienced victim advocates who take a look at some of our programs and kind of question them a little bit, or ask you questions about them at least, and want a little bit more clarification on what they're doing and whether the person in question is in fact serving their time as intended.
Yeah, so I just concur with what the senator said. We can never forget that there are victims of these crimes. They can't get lost in the system, and so it is important to seek their feedback and have great relationships with advocacy groups and those victims of crime, and not forget that. But also we need to remember that the courts have they theoretically should have spent time with those victims when they were making decisions related to incarceration. And so, like the senator said, we just have a job to do here in corrections, and our job is very clear. We're going to protect our communities, we're going to transform lives, and we're going to make a difference in people's lives. And so that's really the stance that we take. I'm never going to forget victims of crime. How could I, after 20 years in law enforcement?
Right.
I've seen some terrible, terrible things, and I'll never forget some of those stories. But also, we can't forget that the people in prison are still human beings. They're people, and we owe it to them to create opportunities for them to be successful. And in turn, I hope that we are preventing victimization by doing that.
Right.
And so I think that is the critical piece that our employees need to understand is they're not just prison guards. They're just not. I hear that term a lot in our department. I'm just this, or I'm just that. And that's not how we should view ourselves. We should view ourselves as having the opportunity to be the backstop and the backbone of the criminal justice system, and take pride in the extreme opportunities that we have to make a difference in public safety. And we have amazing people doing that every day.
I agree.
Yeah.
Well, here we are in November of 2025, and the session is looming right around the corner, right after the holidays. It's almost like the New Year's gift that we all get to participate in. I'm wondering if there are some things that you're anticipating working with each other on as we move into the next legislative session in 2026. Is there some things that you know about already, Senator?
Yeah, a few things. One is working on a bill file with corrections. Some of it is every year you need to do some statutory cleanup just because we're in 2025, not 2005 or way back from, and some things just need to be cleaned up. We're also looking at some drone technology and making sure that the drones are not allowed to be in flyover space because they can be used in negative ways to bring in items. And so I'm working on a bill with leadership on that. But there will be many things that, as the chairs in our appropriation committee, we listen intently to the budget and the needs. I'm sitting on a prison task force right now that it has to do with the capacity, and that's going to take some large funds. We had a meeting yesterday. It's going to take a big investment to continue to provide services, and not just personnel, but the buildings that house our incarcerated. The best thing is what the director just said, and the sweet spot is finding a place to make a difference and having those who have a return to society and have an opportunity to prove themselves there, that they don't come back. That cost, that ongoing return and get back in the system, that's what is so difficult, hard to pay for, honestly.
So, Director Garcia, for the next session, from your standpoint, are we looking at maintaining what we have and shoring it up, or do we have new things that you're on the horizon? That are on the horizon. You don't have to be specific if you're not.
No, I think it's important to be specific. You know, we know it's going to be a hard budget year. We're preparing for a tough budget year, and so when we talk about maintaining, we've spoke a lot to our department about our operations and maintenance budget and the importance of getting that where it needs to be so we can keep the lights on and keep feeding inmates and keep paying our employees. So that is really our number one priority. Continue to fund overtime now that we no longer have vacancy savings is another priority. And the new implementation of technology that'll replace OTRAC is a huge priority for us because, you know, we're operating under a system. Our employees well know this, that is very old and it's antiquated. And when we talk about moving the middle and being effective and efficient in what we're doing, we need the right technology to give us the right data to make the right decisions. And so we're well on our way. We have a really great plan related to that. We're working closely with the governor's office. We work closely with the legislature because, as you know, the governor will present his budget, will support the budget, and the legislature will change the budget inevitably. And we just hope that corrections is at the forefront of their minds when they make these decisions, and that at the end of the day, though, we have an amazing department and amazing employees, and we're going to do the very best that we can with the budget that's allotted to us.
So just to kind of wrap things up, it sounds like we're all working well together here for the most part, and I think the Department of Corrections has a decent relationship, at least on Capitol Hill, with most people. How important do you think those good relationships are as far as interfacing between what's happening at our facilities with the legislature and then ultimately with the public.
It's critical. You can't overstate that relationship because, I get letters from incarcerated. I also get letters and emails occasionally from workforce, from corrections, and I love them. Most of them are very positive. Some were, just so kind and grateful for the increase in their pay that we were able to get and help you guys remove the burden of mandatory overtime, and it just wasn't super effective. But I would say to your amazing team, reach out and build that relationship with your legislators. Let us know from both the incarcerated, our public, and your staff. If we can help, if you see something, say something, we want to. We're not going to go and make judgment on one email or one story on the entire correction. We'll look at it carefully. We'll share appropriately and keep confidences, all in the effort to make this system the best it can be for our people, all stakeholders.
That's right.
Yeah, and we always encourage our employees to thank their legislature and legislatures for the work that they do for us. We truly are fortunate to be in a state where we are supported in corrections, in law enforcement. That's not the case throughout the country in every state. So we can't forget how lucky we are to live here, that Utah is generally a safe state, and we want to keep it that way. And so we're going to continue to work on these relationships. And again, just so grateful that Senator Owens joins us for these opportunities, but also that he's a champion in the background for our employees and for those who are under our supervision.
Okay. Well, Senator Owens, thank you very much for joining us today. It's a pleasure to get to know you and to hear your stand on the corrections and other issues.
Thank you. Honor to be here. Just encourage your team, every corrections officer all the way to the top, to just keep being your best. It's not the legislature that makes this state great. It's the amazing people, and everybody is a team. We are blessed to live here, and Utah's number one, and for many reasons, but the most just the good people. And boy, if we can help people change their lives, turn around, and live successfully among all of us as neighbors, we're doing something right.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, guys.
And thank you for joining us, and thank you for your support and your dedication as we continue to work together, transform lives, and protect communities.
This has been Conversations with Corrections from the Utah Department of Corrections. These podcasts are on our website at corrections.utah.gov or on the UDC YouTube page. Suggestions for a future topic can be sent to corrections@utah.gov. Thank you for joining us.